At my adoption hearing, my sister-in-law screamed, "Those babies should be mine." So I made sure she lost everything, and then my so-called sister-in-law did something I'll never forgive. She took every name I ever gave to the babies I lost and claimed them for her own kids. Then, as if that wasn't sick enough, she swapped out my prenatal vitamins, causing me to lose another baby. Now she thinks I won't fight back? She has no idea who she's messing with. For most of my marriage, I'd carried the label of infertile, but not just any infertile. I was the kind who was handed false hope, only to have it ripped away. 3 pregnancies, each lost halfway through, left me raw. My family was supportive, but not my sister-in-law. Let's call her Harper. The first time I fell apart in her arms, Harper stroked my hair and whispered that she'd always be there for me. When her first daughter was born, she made me godmother. At the time, I honestly thought she was my closest friend. Then, 2 weeks later, she threw herself a baby shower. That's where she announced her daughter's name. "We're so happy to welcome baby Lily." My blood ran cold. That was the exact name I'd picked out for the child I lost. I pulled Harper aside and confronted her, barely holding back tears. She just giggled, all sugar and venom. "Well, it's not like you'll ever use it." My husband, Mason, saw us and came over. When I explained, he just shrugged it off and said Harper was always like that. In the car, I tried to make him understand, but Mason, the peacekeeper of his family, just sighed and said, "That's how she is, Ava. Let it go." I tried. I told myself maybe it was better for my lost daughter's name to live on, even if it wasn't mine. I threw myself into yoga, clean eating, acupuncture, hoping it would help me carry a pregnancy to term. It never worked. About 16 months later, another baby was gone. I was at the pharmacy picking up vitamins when Harper's latest announcement hit my phone. "Welcome, baby Henry. Thanks to Ava for the name inspiration. Her loss is my gift." Followed by a smiling emoji and a skull. By the time Harper snatched my third baby's name, Evelyn, I felt nothing. She'd even send me photos of her nursery. "Bet you wish this was for your Evelyn." When I tried to talk to Mason about it, he told me I was being too sensitive about names and pictures. After almost 5 years, I gave up hoping for a child. That's when Harper, pregnant with her fourth, started making jokes at family dinners about what name she'd steal next. Everyone laughed except me. That night, something inside me broke. If she wanted a name, I'd give her one she'd never forget. At the next family party, I took Harper aside, tears streaming down my face, and confided that I'd found a secret family name in my late mother's diary, a middle name no one knew about, Brinley. I told her it meant blessed child in an ancient language. I even made fake diary pages and showed her a Pinterest board filled with photos and quotes about honoring lost relatives. Harper snatched it up. She announced to everyone she was naming her baby Brinley Grace to honor our family's tradition. That revenge should have satisfied me. But 8 months later, life threw me a curveball. I was pregnant again, this time, into my third trimester. I nearly broke down with joy. No more memorials, no more wondering if I was broken. Mason and I kept the pregnancy quiet, not wanting to get our hopes up. That same week, Harper sent a group text inviting us to her baby shower. I wore a loose dress, hiding my growing bump. Mason, finally done playing nice, stood by my side. Harper went all out for this shower, huge venue, the entire family, plus her online followers eager to meet baby Brinley. She was giving a speech about this sacred, historic name when I stood up, smoothing my dress so my belly was obvious. "Actually, Harper, I have something to share," I said. The room froze. My mother-in-law dropped her punch cup. "I'm 31 weeks today," I announced, cradling my stomach. "We wanted to be sure this time." The room erupted. Harper's face went from smug to pale. That's when Mason stood up, too. "Harper, didn't you say Brinley was a family name? Did you do any research?" He pulled out his phone. "Because when I look it up, it's just a brand of fiber supplement." The silence was thick. I had to pinch myself to keep from laughing. We left together, proud for the first time in ages. But that night, disaster struck. I woke at 2:30 a.m. with a sharp pain I knew all too well. Mason rushed me to the hospital, but it was already too late. I'd miscarried again. The doctors told us one of my nighttime vitamins was tainted with something toxic. The bottle was gone, disappeared from our bathroom, and there was no way to prove what had happened. Harper had been in our house 2 days before, helping set up the nursery. Mason finally believed me. He found the empty vitamin bottle in the outside trash, hands shaking. That's when I started documenting every single thing: texts, posts, offhand comments. The more I dug, the more I realized Harper had been at this for years. After that night, sleep was a lost cause. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Harper's satisfied smirk at that baby shower, her hands on her own belly as if daring me to challenge her. The hospital couldn't tell us what exactly had been in the pill I swallowed. The tainted vitamin bottle had vanished. But Mason and I both knew. Harper had been the only one in our house in the days before it happened, helping organize the nursery, her hands everywhere. From that moment on, I turned into a detective. I started a secret file on my laptop, screenshotting every snide text Harper sent, every mocking comment under her family photos, every helpful suggestion from her friend Catherine, the same Catherine who worked at the neighborhood pharmacy. I made copies of every social media post where Harper played the grieving, supportive sister-in-law, while her followers trashed me in the comments for being jealous or unstable. It became my second job, collecting evidence. 3 weeks after our last loss, I found something that made my blood freeze. Harper's friend Catherine had quietly switched shifts at the pharmacy, but I saw her on a Saturday afternoon and forced myself to approach. When I asked about the vitamins, her hands trembled so hard she nearly dropped a bottle of aspirin. "I don't know what you're talking about," she muttered, straightening bottles with her back to me. That night, Harper posted a blog entry about toxic relatives who invent drama. By the next morning, her online army was all over my social media, calling me a monster, an attention seeker, a fraud. Mason deleted his accounts after a handful of Harper's diehard fans began messaging him threats. We drew the curtains. Mason apologized for everything: the years he'd defended his sister, the times he hadn't believed me, all the ways he'd tried to keep the peace at my expense. He held my hand while I showed him my growing folder of evidence. That was the moment we became a team. It was us versus Harper, and we were done pretending. The next family dinner was at Harper's house. My mother-in-law called and begged Mason not to let this silly feud ruin the family. Against my better judgment, we went. Harper had her new baby, Brinley, the special family name she'd stolen, tucked in a bassinet in the middle of the dining room. Her every comment at dinner was another dig. "Some people just can't stand other people's happiness," she'd say, loud enough for everyone to hear. Halfway through the meal, Harper excused herself to feed the baby. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, screen glowing. I don't know what possessed me. I was shaking, but I wandered in, pretending to get more water, and glanced at her email. The subject lines were a punch to the gut: fertility herbs, miscarriage remedies, tips for natural losses. Hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and snapped as many photos of the screen as I could before Harper's voice cut the air like a blade. "What are you doing?" she barked. She rushed at me, grabbed for my phone. I twisted away. Her nails left red tracks down my wrist as she tried to yank the phone out of my hand. "Give it to me," she hissed. My heart was pounding. Mason heard the noise and rushed in. For the first time ever, he saw the real Harper. Her face twisted in fury, mask completely gone. "She's crazy," Harper shouted, tears appearing out of nowhere. "She attacked me, just like I told everyone she would." But Mason saw the scratches on my arm and Harper's wild eyes. He stepped between us. "We're leaving," he said quietly, taking my hand. On the way home, I showed Mason the photos I'd gotten from Harper's laptop. His face got paler with each one. The very next day, Harper doubled down. She posted a lengthy blog about surviving mentally unstable family members and accused me of faking pregnancies for attention. She uploaded a photo of herself with a tiny bruise on her arm, spinning the story so that I'd attacked her. Her followers lapped it up. "Stay strong, Harper. How do you deal with such toxic people?" There was even a hashtag Justice for Harper. My mother-in-law called before lunch. "You owe Harper an apology," she snapped. "This has gone too far. She's thinking about filing a restraining order." I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. "Harper would never do something like what you're saying. Clearly, you need help." Mason took the phone from me. "Mom, you weren't there. Harper attacked Ava, not the other way around." "Oh, please," his mother said. "You're always taking Ava's side now." A few hours later, Harper emailed a security cam video from her kitchen. Of course, she'd edited out the part where she attacked me. Just left in footage of me at her computer, looking suspicious. Mason tried to argue, but there was no point. Harper's version of the story was spreading fast. That week, she filed a false report with social services, claiming I was unstable and unfit to adopt children. She'd learned we were starting the adoption process, our last hope after everything. A social worker showed up at our door with a folder full of anonymous tips, all in Harper's style of writing. She explained that organized campaigns like this usually meant someone had a personal grudge. We gave her character references, medical documents, everything, but our adoption process was put on indefinite hold while they investigated. That night, I cried in Mason's arms. Harper hadn't just stolen my baby names. She was now trying to destroy my entire future as a mother. The next few days were a blur of panic and humiliation. Harper kept posting about me, ramping up the drama with every post. She edited screenshots to show me as some deranged stalker, conveniently cropping out anything incriminating about herself. Her blog followers exploded in outrage, demanding I be arrested, calling me a thief and a liar. Someone even posted my work address online. Soon after, people showed up outside my office with signs, "Protect kids from Ava. No baby thief in our town." My boss pulled me into his office and said, "This is getting out of hand. Maybe you should take a leave until this blows over." I was essentially suspended. Harper had destroyed not just my reputation, but my job. We started locking all our doors, never opening curtains, rarely leaving the house. Mason installed security cameras inside and out. I felt like a fugitive in my own home, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Then came the call that changed everything. Catherine, Harper's pharmacy friend, left a shaky voicemail. "Meet me at the park near Main Street. Come alone." I told Mason, and he wanted to come too, but I knew Catherine would bolt if she saw him. So, I went alone. Catherine sat on a bench near the playground, hunched over and picking at her cuticles. She looked up as I approached, eyes red. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered as I sat down. "Harper's gone too far. She made me switch your vitamins. She said it was just herbs to calm your nerves, but it was more. She's been stealing your mail, too. She knows everything about your adoption case. She's obsessed, Ava." I tried to record the conversation, but Catherine noticed and grabbed my wrist, panic flashing in her eyes. "Don't. I'll deny it if you try to use this. I have kids. I can't lose my job." She started crying. She blackmailed me. She found out I'd taken a few anxiety pills from work for myself. She said she'd report me unless I helped. I tried to convince her to go to the police, but she just shook her head, then stood and hurried away, disappearing among the trees. I sat on that bench, my heart pounding, realizing just how far Harper had gone and how alone she'd left me. That evening, Mason changed all our locks and had our mail forwarded to a P.O. box. We told the adoption agency about the harassment, sent them copies of every thread, every social media post, every piece of evidence. The caseworker sounded sympathetic, but her voice was tight. "There are so many complaints, Ava. We have to investigate." The next blow came at Thanksgiving dinner. My mother-in-law insisted on the family being together, despite everything. Harper arrived late, making a grand entrance with all 4 of her kids in matching red outfits. Throughout dinner, she dropped pointed comments about the importance of mental health and how some people just can't let go of the past. Mason's jaw clenched tighter with every jab, but he kept quiet. Then, while clearing dessert, Harper stood up and tapped her glass. "I have an announcement," she beamed, her hand resting on her stomach. "We're expecting again, and we've already chosen the perfect name." My mother-in-law gasped in delight. Harper looked right at me. "If it's a girl, we're naming her Margaret, after Ava's late mother." The room spun. My mother had died just 6 months before. Her name was the only thing Harper hadn't managed to steal. I stood so fast my chair toppled backward. "You wouldn't dare," I said, barely above a whisper. Harper's smile was all teeth. "Why not? It's a beautiful name, and someone should use it, since you obviously can't." Mason stood with me, face ashen. That's enough, Harper. You've crossed every line. Harper's voice climbed, shrill. She's the one who broke into my computer. She's the one spreading lies about me. I'm just trying to honor our family traditions. The room erupted, my father-in-law yelling about family peace, Harper's husband looking lost, the kids crying. Harper grabbed her phone and started live streaming. See? I'm under attack in my own family. All because I want to honor my sister-in-law's mother. Mason grabbed my hand, and we left. On the way out, Harper called after me. Oh, Ava, maybe check with the adoption agency. I heard they received some very interesting information about your mental health. I felt ice in my veins. That night, our answering machine was blinking. The adoption case worker's voice was careful, rehearsed. We've received documentation indicating multiple psychiatric hospitalizations under your name. Can you provide a complete medical history? I broke down. I'd never been hospitalized except for my miscarriages. But someone, Harper, had accessed the hospital system and forged fake entries, complete with invented diagnoses. It took weeks and several investigations to have the false information removed. All the while, Harper kept escalating. She created fake social media accounts in my name, posting unhinged rants. She sent anonymous tips to my employer in the adoption agency. Mason started wearing a small body camera everywhere we went, documenting every encounter with his family. His mother called him paranoid. He didn't care anymore. The real turning point came from an unexpected source. Harper's oldest daughter, Lily, now 8, called our house late one evening. Aunt Ava, I need to tell you something, she whispered, voice trembling. Mason quietly hit record on his phone. Lily explained that her mom made her and her siblings practice telling people I was mean to them, that I yelled and said scary things. I don't want to lie anymore. You've always been nice to us. We added the recording to our mountain of evidence, but the next day Harper went on the attack, accusing me online of manipulating innocent children. The online threats got worse. Someone posted my work address again, and protesters came back with new signs. I was officially out of work, out of options, but not out of fight. 2 weeks later, Mason's grandmother turned 90, and the whole extended family gathered for a big dinner at a steakhouse downtown. We debated not going, but she'd always been kind to me, and it felt wrong to let Harper poison another relationship. The party seemed normal at first, kids playing with balloons, everyone passing photos around, even a karaoke machine in the corner. Harper swept in late. Her entrance as dramatic as always, cheeks glowing, her baby bump on full display. She gave everyone a hug except me, pausing only to sneer in my direction. At cake cutting time, I slipped to the restroom for a breather. I was washing my hands when Harper pushed through the door, checking the stalls. When she saw we were alone, her smile vanished. You should just give up, Ava, she said, rifling through her purse and pulling out lipstick. You're never going to be a mother. The agency already dropped your application. Oh, didn't you know? I have friends everywhere. I stayed silent, forcing myself to remember Mason's hidden camera. He'd set it up on his shirt pocket just for this kind of encounter. Harper mistook my silence for defeat and kept talking. It was easy, really. Catherine at the pharmacy, a friend at the hospital, even your caseworker at the agency owes me a favor. You never stood a chance. Why? I asked, my voice low. What did I ever do to you? She stared at her reflection in the mirror, painting on her lips with shaky hands. You married him. My brother was always supposed to be mine. Then you came along with your sob stories, and he stopped putting me first. You ruined everything. She capped her lipstick and turned, eyes cold. So maybe you lost some babies. Nature's way of telling you you're not meant to be a mother. I just helped it along. I left without another word, my hands trembling. That night, when we reviewed the camera footage, we found the battery had died just before Harper entered the bathroom. We had nothing. We didn't have to wait long for the next attack. Harper's husband called Mason out of the blue, asking to meet privately. When they sat down, he looked defeated, bags under his eyes. I found this, he said, sliding over a journal in a cracked leather cover. It fell out of her purse. I wasn't snooping, but you need to see it. It was Harper's journal, filled with confessions and plans. Entries about sabotaging my pregnancies, stealing my mail, plotting with Catherine, and even celebrating each miscarriage. But the worst part was reading about other family members she'd hurt, poisoning her mother-in-law's cat, sabotaging her cousin's wedding, framing a college roommate for theft. I don't even know who I married anymore, he said. I'm filing for divorce. And I'll testify if you need me to. We copied every page of the journal before giving it back. For the first time, we had real, undeniable evidence. But Harper struck first. The next morning, police showed up at our door with a search warrant. Someone had accused us of dealing drugs from our home. They tore through every room, searched our drawers, made us stand outside in the cold while neighbors watched from their windows. They found nothing, but the damage was done. After they left, we found a note stuck under the doormat. Stop now, or next time they'll find something. It was Harper's handwriting. That night, Mason and I made our decision. Enough was enough. We called for a family meeting at my mother-in-law's house. Everyone needed to hear the truth. Harper arrived looking smug, no idea what was coming. Mason connected his laptop to the TV and, one by one, went through the evidence. Photos of Harper's search history on her computer, screenshots of her plotting with Catherine, excerpts from her journal, the recording of Lily confessing about being forced to lie, testimony from Harper's husband. The room was silent as the story unfolded. Harper's face went from confident to cornered to furious. When we got to the entry about poisoning the family cat, Mason's mother gasped. So Whiskers didn't just die in his sleep, she whispered, tears welling. Harper jumped to her feet, voice shaking with rage. This is all lies. They're framing me because they're jealous of my family. But her husband stood too. It's true. I've seen her write it all. She needs help. Suddenly, other relatives began sharing stories, small cruelties, suspicious accidents, old grudges they'd never understood until now. It was like a dam breaking, years of Harper's poison rising to the surface. Cornered, Harper lost control, screaming at everyone. Then at me. You'll never have what I have. Never. She hurled a vase against the wall, glass shattering. Then she lunged at me, clawing at my arms, shrieking about the vitamins and how she should have made sure I'd never even try again. For a second, the room froze as her words hung in the air, her final, public confession. My father-in-law's voice broke the silence. Get out of this house. Now. Don't come back. Harper looked around, seeing all the faces, her children, her husband, her parents turned against her. Fine, she spat, but I'm taking my kids with me. No, you're not, her husband said, calling for the children. All four ran to him, leaving Harper standing alone, shaking and wild-eyed, finally forced to see the consequences of everything she'd done. She slammed the door behind her and was gone. The house was silent after Harper left, except for the quiet sobs of my mother-in-law, who clutched my hand with trembling fingers. I'm so sorry, Ava. I should have believed you. I let her steal so much from you, from all of us. The days that followed moved faster than I expected. Catherine, terrified of losing her pharmacy license, came forward with a full confession. She handed over texts from Harper, pharmacy receipts, and even the lot numbers of the switched vitamins. The police took it all, and Harper's soon-to-be ex-husband filed for emergency custody and a restraining order. He also showed investigators Harper's web searches on miscarriage methods and her years-long campaign to destroy me. Within a week, Harper's entire world unraveled. Her beloved mommy blog imploded when someone leaked parts of her journal online. The woman who'd built a brand on perfect motherhood was exposed as a manipulator and poisoner. Her fans deserted her overnight. The adoption agency called us, apologizing profusely. They said the flood of fraudulent complaints actually strengthened our case, proof we could withstand adversity as a couple. Our application was reactivated. 3 months later, in a courthouse filled with tears and laughter, Mason and I adopted newborn twins, a girl and a boy. We named them Evelyn and Henry, reclaiming the names Harper had stolen. As I signed the adoption papers, I felt the weight of the past lifting off me. Harper was indicted for evidence tampering and felony assault. Her lawyer tried for a plea deal that would get her treatment instead of jail time, but with so many witnesses and her own words working against her, she didn't have much hope. The best part was seeing the children finally safe. Lily, the eldest, started calling me Aunt Ava again. She asked to babysit the twins someday, wanting to be the kind of cousin her mom never let her be. Mason's parents, finally free of denial, became devoted grandparents, making up for lost time. Harper's ex found his footing as a single dad. The house was lighter, warmer. The day we brought the twins home, Mason squeezed my hand as we buckled them into their car seats. "We made it," he said softly, tears in his eyes. For a while, things felt normal again: family dinners, birthday parties, milestones we'd thought we'd never celebrate. But Harper wasn't done causing chaos. As we posed for family photos on the courthouse steps, Mason stiffened and nodded across the street. There she was, Harper, watching us from behind oversized sunglasses and a baseball cap. She didn't come any closer. Courthouse security quickly escorted her away as she shouted that we'd stolen her baby's names. The twins slept through it all, their tiny faces serene in a world finally tilting our way. That afternoon, we learned Harper had started a new blog, spinning herself as the victim and us as the villains. She reposted our adoption announcement with captions like, "How it feels to have your family stolen." Catherine texted me a warning. Harper had tried to get information from the pharmacy about infant medications but was turned away. That evening, Mason installed a doorbell camera and changed the twins' pediatrician to one across town. We weren't taking any chances. Harper's ex called and told us she'd broken into his house while the kids were at school, taking photo albums and baby clothes. She'd left a note demanding visitation. 3 days later, she showed up at Mason's office, waiting for him in the parking lot. As soon as she saw him, she started shouting. Mason began recording on his phone. "You turned everyone against me. Even my own children," she screamed, blocking his path. "You destroyed me, Mason." "Sarah, you need to leave," he said quietly. "You're violating the restraining order." "That piece of paper means nothing," she hissed, grabbing for his phone and smashing it against the pavement. Security intervened, and the parking garage cameras caught the whole thing. Police issued a warrant for her arrest. For a week, Harper evaded police, sending a flurry of fake social media accounts after us, spinning wild stories about kidnapping and betrayal. She posted doctored photos of the twins, claiming they were her children. My boss called me back to the office, concern etched in his face. "Ava, we know none of this is true, but we have to ask you to take more time off while this is resolved. HR is worried about the public pressure." That night, Lily called again. "Aunt Ava, Mom's outside. She says she has new vitamins for the baby to make her smart." I felt ice slide down my spine. Mason called his brother while I stayed on the phone with Lily. We heard Harper pounding on the door, screaming to be let in. The police arrived in minutes, arresting her as she ranted about just wanting to help her family. In her purse, officers found a bottle of unmarked pills, mild sedatives, but enough for the judge to add child endangerment to her growing list of charges. Patricia, a woman who'd briefly housed Harper, called me to apologize. "I believed everything she said about you. But then I caught her at my medicine cabinet at 3 a.m., and I found out she'd been using my computer to make those fake profiles." Patricia sent me dozens of screenshots showing Harper's online harassment. We handed it all over to the detective building the case. The criminal trial began that spring. Mason and I sat quietly in the back of the courtroom, clutching hands as Harper shuffled in, handcuffed and gaunt. One by one, witnesses took the stand. Catherine, trembling but honest, Harper's ex-husband, describing years of manipulation. My own testimony, steady and detailed, outlining the campaign of harassment and sabotage. Evidence, text messages, the journal, pharmacy records, recordings, painted a devastating picture. Harper's defense fell apart almost immediately. Her lawyer tried to paint her as mentally ill, a product of childhood trauma, but the facts were overwhelming. When pressed, Harper broke down, screaming about how we had stolen her life, her family, her happiness. She admitted to everything: poisoning the vitamins, falsifying records, even manipulating her own children. The judge called for order as the gallery sat stunned. The verdict came back, guilty on all counts. Harper was sentenced to 15 years, with the possibility of parole in 7, and ordered to undergo intensive psychiatric treatment in a secure facility. As she was led away, she turned back, her eyes burning with a wild mixture of hate and longing. "Take care of them for me," she whispered, voice barely above a breath. I didn't answer. For the first time in years, peace settled over our lives. Evelyn and Henry thrived, laughing and growing surrounded by true love. Lily and her siblings adjusted to life without their mother's chaos, their father gentle and attentive. Mason's parents, older but lighter, visited often, finally free from denial. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, and simple afternoons in the backyard, soaking up every moment that had once seemed impossible. One sunny Saturday, as the twins napped and Mason read on the porch, I sorted through a box of old memories. I found the ultrasound photos, the hospital bracelets, and the list of names I'd once dreamed of using. With a deep breath, I added new photos. Our family, together at last, faces open and joyful. The past was part of us, but it no longer defined our future. But life has a way of reminding you that peace is never guaranteed. One afternoon, as I picked up the twins from daycare, the director pulled me aside. "Ava, I almost didn't mention this, but a woman came by earlier today asking questions about your children. She said she was a family friend, but didn't give her name." I told her nothing, of course, and made a note for the record. My heart skipped. What did she look like? The director hesitated. Sunglasses, scarf, maybe a wig. But there was something familiar in her voice. That night, as we locked up and tucked the twins in, Mason squeezed my hand, sensing my worry. "She's behind bars, Ava," he said gently. "We're safe. She can't hurt us now." I nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that somehow, Harper wasn't finished with us yet. In the quiet of our home, as the sun faded and the world settled into night, I listened for footsteps on the porch, for shadows at the window. Our family had survived the storm, built something beautiful from broken pieces. But as I held my children close, I knew sometimes evil doesn't disappear. Sometimes it just waits for its next move. And I would be ready,